Welcome, 2017, New Year, Happy New Year. When we started these seminars, I said it is important that some of us are in a passion of sharing our experiences so that the next generation of leaders will not have to have a tough way of learning. And this dream now is materializing. It's called ELC, Energy Leadership Center. The liquid fuels industry has always been really pushing the boundaries of transformation. But the structure and the nature of the industry, however, is a lot of challenges for new entrants. And that's what we are here to encourage and make sure that people learn and get the skills to be leaders, to push this industry forward and change and make sure that it moves to the next direction. Now we've got what we call oil and gas masterclass. You need to learn more. This industry, you have to get deep and deep in order for it to understand. And it's a 3-day session, so you've got to dedicate time. From the 14th to the 16th of March, how will you benefit? We'll use case studies, just to provoke thinking and discussion and conversation. Despite all the challenges in this industry, there's still opportunities. And service station is one of them.
At one stage in this market, you had refinery wholesalers. You had Engine, BP, Shell, Cecil. Now we see the entrance of non-refining wholesalers enter our market. And really, there's more flexibility, there's more agility, these guys move differently, smaller insights, swift in decision making, less bureaucracy. And this is what we as oil companies need to be sensitive about. Apart from being in the oil industry, retail is out there. 10, 15 years ago, in terms of convenience in a retail convenience center, you never had a convenience store. We went out there, the market in its entirety, from every oil company, developed a convenience store. We took away 15 billion annually from the FMCG players, the likes of Checkers, ShopRite. If you look at operational cost, three really big issues that sit here. Firstly, utilities in terms of electricity. Small service stations pumping 160, 180,000 liters a month, attracting 65,000 in water and lights. This is not sustainable. The cost for credit card fees, some of the geographies actually have 50 or 60% on credit card, and that's eating into the margin again. And then the other one is labor cost. In the early days, there was cushion there, and that labor margin really sat in the right space. Currently, it's also eroding margin because of the ancillary activity that you have on your side. Two good things is that urbanization is growing and convenience is growing, so there is an opportunity. Today, to develop a service station is really a challenge. It takes you greenfield development at least minimum of 3 years. You've got environmental impact assessment, you've got site and retail license, you've got zoning that comes through. There's router fuel that's coming through there. The secondary distribution costs are extremely high. There's fuel losses that are coming there. That's what's facing the industry. Franchisees own nothing but the assets in there. That is the wet stock and dry stock. So if you don't look after the wet stock in terms of controls, there's difficulty. Whether it's government owned, whether it's oil company owned, is the investment coming through? Yes, but it's not an overnight thing. It's probably a 5 to 10 year radar screen. If you look at, from a convenience point of view, there's Food Labeling Act that you look at. There's the introduction of the sugar tax that you look at. The LPG in terms of the compliance that you require there. And then we've got the Uberization. I mean, we've got Uber Eats in our market. We've got similar proposals here that's taking away from us. The industry across all oil companies and even non-refining wholesalers probably move brands to the extent about 40 a year. Of the 40, there's probably about 12 or 13 new greenfield developments, probably the best return on investment. Today, property has value, service station property has value. So those who are disciplined and committed can make fancy money out of property. You need to be alert that you need to understand the leases, the tenure, the RAIS methodology, the rebates. In terms of business operations, the opportunity is not limited to Cecil. To drive transformation in this industry, the new to industry greenfield developments are always discounted. In Cecil's side, it's 2.5 million excluding VAT. People who qualify for those opportunities, there aren't many, probably 2 or 3 in the Cecil cluster, and probably the industry another 8 or 10. But the return on owner's equity there is probably 30%, probably the highest return in terms from a franchise perspective in this country, and probably under 2 or 3 year payback. So fantastic, phenomenal return, and really we can drive transformation.
Today, the millennials, they run their lives with smartphones. There are more efficient forms of moving people and goods around the surface of the planet. How are they fueled? I'm talking to those of you interested in opportunities, to make opportunities in this industry of ours. For the new entrants and the people who want to make space in business, look, I would say, in those areas. This act that governs this industry, the Petroleum Products Act, was gazetted in 1977. And this is the act which is governing this industry today. The regulation we have is reinforcing the old structures. The vertical integration of the industry, the ownership concentration, and the dominant brands in the retail sector. Regulation is stifling how retailers buy their product. You're tied to certain suppliers. It's stifling site differentiation. It's stifling site innovation. It's stifling localization and multiplier effects. Regulation is also stifling the lower volume rural sites. They are trapped by regulated zonal pricing and by regulated retail margins. So I'm suggesting for those who are looking for opportunities, get ahead of the curve. Our electric refueling site service stations, our compressed natural gas refueling sites service stations. Well, in my interpretation of the Act, and I've been a regulator for 20 years, I would say, no. Petroleum product means any petroleum fuel or substance. Is electricity a substance? Is gas a substance? I don't think so. So here's opportunities. That kind of refueling is outside the Act. What I'm advocating is let's swap petrol price regulation and licensing for things that can really transform this economy, for limitations on vertical integration. Let's make space for new entrants to really come into this industry. The regulator has been poor. They've issued licenses like confetti at a wedding, and there are far too many, and nobody can build that many. It's not economically can't be justified, but there's still a lot of sites out there, 4,500. That could be 4,500 separate businesses. It doesn't have to belong to 6 companies. We've got to have new ways of thinking to transform this economy. We've got to remove the suffocating regulation. We've got to regulate against the dominance of 6 companies, against the brand controls, for innovation and competition and wider participation in the economy.
We've seen a lot of retailers out there, they buy a petrol station, and within a couple of months they drive a Range Rover, a black one for that matter. Knowledge, it's one thing that is really lacking for new entrants into this industry. When people get that and they see the millions going through the bank account, they stop drinking Castle Lager in the township. It's quite important that you as an operator understand every single little corner of that business and prepare that business plan yourself, because that business plan is going to be a roadmap for you. It's quite important that you have a very good relationship with your staff. Empower them. Make sure that they own the business. Let them treat that business as if it's their own. You've got to market, you've got to know your customer profile and take it from there. Service. We cannot overemphasize the word service. There are 6 P's which have really assisted me in getting where I am today, but I don't drive a Range Rover. It's passion for the business, people, product, processes. Planning is quite critical because we are in this for profit. Go out there and talk to the people who are already in the industry before you really get into it, and you'll be a winner.
Currently, the DOE is actually inviting all the corps, like the likes of CAP Agri, Agri SA. How can we actually drive the transformation at that level? And my view that the easiest way to do that is to actually look at the company level. There's a huge opportunity, because if you talk to these co-ops, actually now you find that about 40% to 50% of their businesses are now fuel. And they've actually recognized that fuel is a huge opportunity. So in terms of participation as a black entrance, that's another opportunity that you actually target those companies in terms of equity shareholding. Also the same thing with these independent brands, because again they own the land and they own the brands. I think the easiest way for us to get in there is through equity shareholding. So those are the solutions, and I think we need to look at a process where we can have pre-approved funding by NEF, by IDC, so that when an opportunity comes in, you don't have to go and actually try and source the money. You can just say, I've actually been approved already. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest. Real transformation in retail is not going to come from new sites. New sites, they're about 10 or whatever a year. That's not going to take us anywhere. If we want real transformation, that's got to happen within the 4,500 first and foremost. Real transformation is in ownership.
Because ideally in a service station environment, and historically you needed a 50 debt to equity ratio because of the low margins. And even though you say, the C-store brings you 30% gross margin, it's 30%, but you're giving 10% back to the oil company in terms of royalty. Then you're taking off pilferage in the industry sits 5 or 6%. So 50-50 is the ideal position. But to drive transformation, what is important is you need to lower their debt to equity. And you need to partner with financial institutions. You must select your financing partners very well, because when a dealer is in trouble, because he hasn't bought a Range Rover, but the economic climate has brought it, then as an oil company, we must play a role in terms of facilitating that conversation with the finance partner.
We cannot expect the oil companies to babysit every single franchisee out there.
People demand new technologies, it's smarter ways of doing things, and you can't keep the smart ideas down. So yes, there were a lot of jobs lost in the fixed line business, but a lot of other jobs were created doing apps and all kinds of things like that. So this is the way societies move and change over time. The same will happen in this industry. It is happening already. And it's very hard for anybody to stand against those forces.
I'm sitting here where I'm sitting partly because of ULP. If you do not know what ULP is about, please go Google Unleashing Leadership Potential.